Just on Birmingham's doorstep is Worcestershire, a county of rivers and hills bearing no resemblance at all to its urban neighbour, save perhaps for the local accent. But what are its prettiest towns? To establish this, I've visited them all personally, and my conclusions are presented to you in this top 10 list. As per the rules of this series, cities are included for consideration, which adds one contender to the pool. However, villages are not, as there are just too many of them. Oh, and there's one specific panorama from one town centre here that ranks among the finest views in the whole country. And if I can't back up that claim, feel free to smash the dislike button, or something. Anyway, let's get to it. Number 10. Getting us started is a town once home to a thriving nail industry. The type you hit with a hammer, that is. Bromsgrove. With only a dozen towns in the whole county to choose from, Bromsgrove just sneaks into this list, mainly on account of a baffling town planning decision from its neighbour Kidderminster, which features a ring road not around the town centre, but through the town centre. As for Bromsgrove, it's by no means without its faults, but to its credit does feature a few striking old buildings, including this gem from the Elizabethan era, which was actually dismantled and rebuilt one street away in the 19th century to make way for the railway station. The station in turn relocated in 2016, about a mile and a half away. Trains, eh? Number 9. Next is quite possibly England's only town built from scratch solely due to the canal network, Stourport-on-Severn. Before engineer James Brindley set to work on making this the southern terminus of the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal in the 18th century, it was little more than a hamlet with about a dozen residents. The confluence of two rivers made it a practical choice, and the resulting town that grew from it has a relatively short history, but a healthy dose of Georgian architecture. Since a lottery-funded restoration project was carried out on the canal in the early 2000s, Stourport has become a popular draw with narrowboat enthusiasts, helping to give the town a certain quirky character of its own. Number 8. Now to another canal town, in this case one that's been associated with the salt trade for about 2,000 years, Droitwich Spa. The rich brine springs in the area were known to the Romans, who settled here and called it Salinae, Latin for salt works. The Anglo-Saxons picked up the industry where the Romans left off, as did successive generations up until the early 20th century. The town's brine springs were later repurposed for use as a spa resort, although with a salt content of about 10 times that of seawater, this was most certainly for bathing rather than drinking. All of which has left the town of today with the air of a fashionable resort, albeit one with an interesting blend of architectural styles. Number 7. Staying on the theme of natural springs, we come to the county's westernmost town, Tenbury Wells. While Tenbury has been a market town since a charter was granted to it in 1249, its history as a spa town is much more recent, stemming from the discovery of mineral springs here in 1839. A transformation into a resort in typical Victorian fashion followed, with Queen Victoria herself referring to it as "my little town in the orchard," in reference to the bountiful apple trees. The pump rooms, dating from 1862, ooze eccentric 19th century charm, as does the round market, originally built to enable farmers' wives to sell their dairy products. Views over the River Teme, which separates the town from Shropshire, give it an additional visual flourish. Number 6. As stated in the intro, I do include cities for consideration, which of course brings us to Worcester. Just like Lichfield, which featured in the Staffordshire episode of this series, Worcester is another ancient city that doesn't get anywhere near the recognition I believe it deserves. Put it like this, there's much more to this city than a certain sauce that Americans struggle to pronounce. Waterside views of Worcester Cathedral over the River Severn set the tone nicely, and more still for it being visible from the railway bridge for that all-important first impression. Then you have a large stretch of Tudor buildings with jettied upper floors providing a visual feast, although an adjacent multi-storey car park acting as one of its bookends does provide an odd juxtaposition, I'll admit. And of course there's the Grade 1 listed Guildhall, just over 300 years old and claimed by some to have been designed by a pupil of Christopher Wren. All this amidst plenty of architecture from the 19th century or earlier. Not bad for a city whose population ticked over the 100,000 mark at the last census. Number 5. Next we head southeast to one of Worcester's neighbouring towns, and quite a gem at that. Pershore. Here's a town that exhibits an extraordinary amount of Georgian architecture. The reason for this isn't entirely clear, since there's no documented evidence of, say, a great fire that would account for an 18th century rebuilding spree, though it may be simply down to its former role as a staging post on the London to Worcester road during this period. Anyway, when you have this much cohesion, what does it matter, I suppose? There is one building several centuries older, and that is, of course, Pershore Abbey. Originally founded in the 7th century, the edifice standing loftily in the town centre today is a blend of Norman, Early English and decorated Gothic, with some Victorian restoration. Number 4. Now to the smallest town in Worcestershire, and a suitably idyllic looking one at that, Upton-upon-Severn. Here's a traditional British town with traditional British street names like Church Street, High Street, Old Street, and this one. But in all seriousness, this is a town with nary a hair out of place, where Tudor and Georgian buildings nestle together seamlessly, punctuated by a truly unique church tower. When the church itself was demolished by the Victorians, they preserved the tower on account of its unique blend of 13th and 18th century features, a tower which goes by the nickname the Pepper Pot, for reasons you can probably guess. All this against the backdrop of the UK's longest river, for the third time this video, but not the last. Number 3. First though, we have another major river to acknowledge, the Avon, the River Avon running through Stratford that is, as well as its neighbour just over the county border, Evesham. About 1,300 years ago, the Bishop of Worcester declared the meander in the river here to be a holy site, and persuaded the King of Mercia to found an abbey here, and around it grew this settlement. This same meander helped Henry III's men hem in the rebel Baron Simon de Montfort in the 1265 Battle of Evesham, so it's safe to say this town is brimming with history. To get a feel for its medieval past, you only have to walk through the Abbey Park, where you'll find a freestanding bell tower that survived the dissolution of the monasteries, and a rare instance of two medieval parish churches practically next to one another. Then you have the wide Georgian High Street, with a few surviving Tudor buildings thrown in, collectively playing an effective role in simply not upstaging the town's aforementioned historic centrepiece. Number 2. Our runner-up spot goes, fittingly enough, to a town whose name means beautiful place in Old French, from whence it was derived, Bewdley. For many centuries, this was one of the main trading ports along the River Severn prior to the arrival of the canals, which incidentally bypassed Bewdley in favour of the earlier entry of Stourport-on-Severn. With around 300 listed buildings, the town seems frozen in time, in the best possible way. There's even a heritage railway station for the train enthusiasts. And with views like this from Thomas Telford's 18th century Severn Bridge, you'll be left to wonder, is this the jewel of the Severn? Or would that be Bridgenorth in Shropshire? A topic for exploration in a future video, quite possibly. Number 1. Finally, our top spot, in more ways than one, goes to a rare example of a Worcestershire town without a major river running through it, mainly on account of it being about 400 feet above sea level. Great Malvern. Here's another town that developed as a spa resort due to the purported curative properties of its water, but unlike those in Droitwich, you can certainly drink the spring water found here, as have many for the last 200 years or so. The town's zenith as a health retreat came around the Victorian era, to which the local architecture will generally attest. There is, however, one much older building, that being Great Malvern Priory, nearly 1,000 years old, though largely rebuilt in the 15th century. Seen from the vantage point of these very hills, you'd be hard pushed to find a finer view in the entire Midlands. And a fitting note on which to conclude this list of prettiest towns / cities in Worcestershire. Do you agree or disagree with my picks? By all means let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you'd like to catch up with other counties covered in this series so far, check out the link on the screen now. Thanks for watching and have a great day.